welcome back. Today we're going to discuss Ready to Love, Season 3, Episode 3, titled Watch What You Say. Now we see that all of the folks have moved into the house. They're all on the resort. Tommy opens up the episode explaining to them how things are going to look this season. Essentially, what's going to happen is week to week, the power is going to switch from the men to the woman. The woman will have an opportunity to eliminate 2 men, and then the following week, the men will have an opportunity to eliminate 2 women. The episode begins with all of them coming together, Tommy explaining how everything is going to work, and then they all start to pair off. There were some connections that were made last week. We see some of those continue, and others are starting to look at people who they may not have paid attention to before. 2 of the guys decide to suggest a group date of some sort. You'll remember Raymond. He's the 52-year-old father of 5. He suggests a group date, which consists of a little picnic outing, so to speak. So 6 of them go out. They're all sitting around the table. Simone, who was in the bottom 2 last week, admits to everybody that she was feeling away at the fact that she was in the bottom 2 because she thought that she had made some connections with some of the fellas, and she was shocked to find out that the feeling wasn't mutual. Now David, you'll remember David, the country boy, he tells Simone, they had a conversation and it seemed to him that she was guarded, and that was the reason why I guess he put her in the bottom 2. But it's not really true, because you'll recall last week he told Tommy that their conversation was trash. What he's telling Simone this week is something completely different. Just make a note of that, put that on the side. Alicia goes on to tell David that she tried to talk to him the prior week and she didn't seem to get a lot of energy from him. So now the focus starts to move on to David, and he's explaining himself to these women. Joy, big hair Joy, she then also adds to the conversation, and she says to David that he seemed like a little bit of a mystery man because last week he showed up with a hat and sunglasses. David doesn't seem to like this. You can see the effect on his face immediately that he feels he's being attacked, or he feels like he's being singled out. And he gets a little defensive. He mentions that there were other men wearing sunglasses and wearing hats. And so what he does is he kind of waves his finger at Joy saying, you know, I'm not the only one who was acting that way, or something to that effect. And she takes issue with the fact that he waved his finger at her. She said, you know, get your finger out of my face, or something. I saw the scene. I did not think that David was waving his finger in her face. I did not think he was being disrespectful. But again, I wasn't there, and I don't really know the proximity, how close they were sitting together, and maybe it did seem like he was being aggressive toward her. So you have a situation where all 3 of them are feeling a little bit of a way about David. Simone goes on to talk a little bit about why she feels she might have been guarded. So now you remember, David said the reason they didn't connect is because she seemed guarded. So now she's running with that. But the reason wasn't that she was guarded. The reason was that she was interrogating everybody. So they're not really being honest with her, and it's a little off-putting because if you're not honest with her about what she did wrong, how is she supposed to know how to fix it? Anywho, she goes on and she starts talking about her issues with her father. How, you know, her father he loved her, but he didn't like her. She felt that he criticized her a lot. He always identified the one thing that she didn't do, the one thing she did wrong amongst the many things that she did right. She says she recognized this when she was dating a man who had similar qualities, and that's when the light bulb went off and she realized that the issues that she was having with men stemmed from unresolved issues that she had with her father. She says that she took her father to therapy, they talked it out, and now they have a much better relationship. I was a fan of Simone week 1. I did not like her last week, and this week she's crawled back into my heart. I felt bad for her when she told that story. In some ways I could relate. It was a little disheartening to see that somebody well into their adult years is still struggling with some issues they had from the time they were a child, and how it's affecting their current day life. I mean, we know that this happens all the time. So to hear her story, it really tugged on my heartstrings a little bit, and I felt some compassion for her. So I'm glad to see that she's going to be hanging around for at least another week. Alicia was interesting. When they talk about Raymond and his 5 kids, Alicia says that it was a cause of concern for her because she has 3 kids and she's extremely high maintenance, and that she did not believe he could support 8 people. I didn't like this at all, and I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, Alicia, are you looking for somebody to support you and your children, or are you looking for love? Because it sounds like the former. And then she even went on to say that she's a little bit selfish. I mean, she's putting her cards on the table. And if the men aren't listening, that's on them. But I heard it loud and clear. She sounds like somebody who is looking to be taken care of. And I get it. Most women want that. But you're leading with it. And it seems unrealistic. Why should a man take care of you and your 2 children? I mean, you're a grown woman. You're grown, right? She's in her late 30s. She has 2 kids. I don't know how old they are. But I just think it's problematic for a woman to walk into a relationship with the assumption, well, rather the expectation, that a man is supposed to come in and take care of them. Like, why? What are you, who are you? What are you bringing to the table that's so great that somebody needs to come in here and take care of your whole tribe? That didn't sit well with me. And it's going to come up again later when she's having her one-on-one time with David, which we will get to, and I have more to say about that. You know, let's just go ahead and talk about it. So there's a scene where David and Alicia are playing pool. David mentions that he is the man of the household. He's the man, he's the alpha male, he's in charge, something like that. She asks him, oh, so if you're the man and you're in charge, does that mean you pay for everything? So here we go again with this theme of take care of me and my children. David seems a little taken aback, and he even says, well, you know, you have 2 kids. Is the expectation I'm going to take care of you and your children? Like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound right. And you can see the instant reaction on her face that she did not like it, and she had checked out that conversation. Now, this was interesting to me on a couple different levels. Number one, I think that I hear where David's coming from. I don't know how old he is. I know Alicia's in her late 30s and she has 2 kids. So you have 2 people who I believe he's in his early 30s. He's younger than her. He has no children. Taking on a woman who has children is not for everybody. And not to say that it can't happen successfully and that a man who doesn't have children should not get with a woman who has kids. But I do think it's unfair, unrealistic, and a bit entitled to expect that from somebody, especially expect it from somebody you just met and you're meeting in this kind of environment where you guys are both putting out your best foot forward in order to meet somebody, to make yourself appealing. I don't see how that's going to make you appealing. And I don't see how you can have issue with him having issue with you leading like that. Let's be real, Alicia. You're not a spring chicken. You're not a young, all right, I'm gonna offend some people when I say this. You are an absolute catch. I know as women, we always tell each other, you're a catch, you're a catch, you're a catch. You're good looking, you know, you work, you're educated, all these things. Granted, those are all great characteristics and you are bringing something to the table. But in comparison, if you compare her to the other women on the show or just other women outside of the show, if he was to meet another age-appropriate woman who does not have any children, Alicia, you know, why would he be interested in you? You come with baggage, and I'm not calling kids baggage. I'm calling the responsibility baggage. And you have a high expectation of him. It's just not realistic. It's not fair. So don't say you on here looking for love. You're looking for somebody to take care of you. And that's all. And that's fine. But let's just be real about what it is that you're actually doing. You said it with David. I'm sorry, you said it with Raymond, and now you're saying it with David. So one can only assume that that's your agenda. It's not a good look, sis. And she uses the term, I want a strong man. Boo, it sounds like you want a rich man. Maybe not even a rich man, a man who's willing to support you. Are you saying you don't want to work no more and you just want to, you want to luxuriate while somebody takes care of you and your kids? That sounds like a gold digger to me. And if you gold digging, you don't have to find love. So let's move on to something positive. Chris and Naya have made a connection. They decide to go out on a one-on-one date, and Chris sets it up for them to go out paddle boating. I thought it was really cute, different, unique. Once they come back, he has some wine for her. They talk a little bit about their backgrounds and what they're looking for. And they have a unique connection in that they are both over 40, but they both still want kids, and neither of them have kids. So there's a lot of potential between the two of them. I really like the fact that Chris saw what he wanted and he went straight for it, as opposed to playing around and mingling and dipping his toes in a lot of different ponds. He went for the woman that he liked, which could be to his demise, depending on how the chips fall later. But I respect the fact that he's doing it the way he is. And even if one of them gets voted off at some point, I think that there's a love connection there that they can continue outside of the show. So I was happy to see that. I like them together. And Chris, I apologize because I was hating on you for 2 episodes straight because of the fuchsia suit and the no shirt. And it just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. You do have some substance, and I like the way you move. So I'm rooting for y'all. They had this game of Jenga. It was like Jumbo Jenga, where you pull out the little pieces and they had questions on it. This was so cute. I wonder if this is something that they made for the show, or can one go and buy this? Because it was a great idea. It was fun. It added a little twist to the game. It was really cute. Not much happened in that scene except that they did a little truth or dare, and 2 of the guys took the opportunity to kiss the girls they like. So it was cute. We come to the end of the episode, and it's now elimination time. Tommy has brought all the women together. They're sitting around, drinking wine, and he wants to talk to them a little bit about who they're feeling, who they're not feeling, and why. And so the discussion ensues. They go around and each of the women say who they're interested in. But where it gets interesting is when Tommy asks who they think needs to go, we start to see the drama unfold. It appears that there are 3 men who are on the chopping block. The first is Raymond. And I was wrong about Raymond, I admitted this. When I was watching the initial show, I thought he was going to be a fan favorite, but it turns out that all them kids, and he did say in this episode that he's got 5 kids and 4 baby mamas, so that just kind of makes it a little more dicey. It turns out that the kids is a turnoff for a lot of the women. And then to compound that, in his one-on-one time with Adriana, he mentioned that marriage was just a piece of paper. Adriana goes ahead and she reports this to the rest of the women, and it does not go over well. Obviously, this is a show about love. A lot of these women are looking, if not all of these women are looking to get married. So to hear a man who says, marriage is just a piece of paper, it may not really be warranted, you could see how that just does not go over well with everybody. Added with the fact that he has so many children. So Raymond's on the block. David is also not a favorite. David had a couple of missteps this episode, it seems. The first was when he was at that picnic and he allegedly wagged his finger at Joy. For some, that seemed aggressive, and his disposition seemed a little defensive. The second came when Alicia reported to everybody about their conversation during pool, when he said that he wasn't going to basically said he wasn't going to take care of her kids. She reported back, and there was a lot of, oh no he didn't, and oh no, and what's he thinking, going around the room. I don't know that all the women felt that way, but it seemed to be the consensus. And like I said before, I don't know that his delivery was on point, but I understand his rationale. So I don't know that that's something that should be held against him. But if that's what those women want, and if those women do believe that a man is supposed to come in and pay all your bills and everything, then he probably shouldn't be there anymore. And they'll be doing him a favor by eliminating him. Now, the last person came as a shock to me, Rashid. Now, I've always liked Rashid. He's got good energy. Apparently, he's come off as a little arrogant to some of the women. There was a scene in which he was sitting around a table with a couple of the girls, and he made reference to having a pool table at his house. He said he doesn't play it, but it's just there for looks. Then he mentioned that he was in Nordstrom shopping for pajamas. There may have been something else, but, and there probably is other conversation that was had that we just didn't see on camera. But the consensus seemed to be that there was an arrogance about him, as if he was putting on, if he was, you know, low-key bragging. I didn't see it, but I can't say that it didn't happen. Now, Denise really dislikes this dude, and this was her opportunity to dig the knife in and twist it. Denise says that he reminds her of somebody she used to date who was a narcissist, that she knows the type, the tall, light-skinned, bald, frat dude, and a host of other things. And while she did say she was triggered because he reminds her of somebody, it was very evident. It's not Rashid she's upset with. It's that dude who Rashid reminds her of, and she hates him. Now, we all have people in our past who leave a bad taste in our mouth. And I'll admit, if you do come across somebody who reminds you of them, I could see how it might be a deal breaker for you. But she has a visceral reaction to Rashid. Like, even when he's talking and not talking to her, or somebody's referencing him and she's not in the conversation, her expressions, it's hateful. I said it before and I'll say it again, Denise has some issues. She's angry. She's angry at the world. She's angry at a couple of people, and it's misplaced, it's displaced, it's just seeping out of her pores. She can't even help herself. I hope she gets a nice one-on-one with one dude and he can overlook that, because I don't see it for her. That attitude is poor. It's very angry Black woman. And it all came to the surface when Rashid came up. So Tommy says, well, you know, it's not wrong with being light-skinned and bald and being part of a frat, because Tommy is light-skinned, bald, and he's part of a frat. He says it in a humorous way, but it's true. I mean, you know, what are you talking about? You're drawing some really broad conclusions about somebody based on outward characteristics. Now, again, I just told you it's about something deeper than that, but I would think she was intelligent enough to not draw such conclusions, because the average person can say that doesn't make sense. And Adriana saw it. She's like, that is not the definition of narcissism. She used the word because, you know, it's one of those words that people use now. And it connotes all these things about a person, but it just was not the appropriate description for him. It's something that's much deeper, obviously. Adriana says, I don't see that with him. And so she even told the rest of the women, I don't see this arrogant thing with him, not with me. And Denise, with her angry self, says, well, he wouldn't show it to you. So I don't know what Denise's end game is, because you don't want the man, fine, clear, but why do you want him gone so bad? Why are you mad that he has a connection with somebody else? It's like you don't want anybody to like him. So Adriana feels away because she likes him. She doesn't want to see him go home, and she has a connection with him. But I do like the fact that she defended him, and she said that she does not see those things. And I don't know that it might have just been 2 or 3 of them that said it, and then that was the consensus, or maybe everybody else just kind of went along with it. But I did not get that from Rashid at all. After they have this discussion, it's time for it to be communicated to the men who the women think is not ready to love. Winter meets up with Rashid, Denise meets up with David, and Adriana meets up with David, all to have one-on-one discussions. So if you've watched the show before, you'll know that what they do is they nominate one of the people to tell somebody in the opposite group that they're going to be basically eliminated from the show. So what Tommy's trying to do is show that, you know, the mature thing to do is to tell somebody face to face, tell them why, and tell them in private. So that's essentially what they're doing. Winter and Rashid have a good conversation. She tells him that the women feel that there are more layers to him that they're not seeing yet, and essentially tells him, you have another shot and you can stay. So we see that he is happy to learn that he's going to be on the show for another week. That went well. Adriana meets up with Raymond and tells him that his conversation about the marriage is what turned a lot of the women off. And then tells him that they have all agreed that he's not ready to love. And it's the end of the show for him. He takes it really well. Now, where it gets interesting is that they have nominated Miss Denise to talk to David. And this was probably by design. This was interesting because David seemed a little defensive, and we know that Denise likes to be on offense. The two of them sit down on a swing, and Denise lays into him. She talks over him. She won't let him finish. She tells him about what he said with the kids and how he needs to understand that if you're gonna love a woman, you gotta love all of her, and you gotta take on everything that comes with her, her children, her rent, her mortgage, her bills, which I don't think is exactly what the woman said, but she just added a little something on top of it. And then she goes on to say that she had a reaction to it. But boo, he wasn't talking to you. Why are you having such a reaction to? So you keep getting triggered by men when men ain't talking to you. That's interesting to me. He tries to explain himself. She talks over him. This was bordering on an argument, in my opinion. I think David was really trying to contain himself. I feel like Denise was just waiting for him to say one thing to her sideways so that she could have an excuse to go off. It was combative. It was uncomfortable to watch. And Denise seemed like she was getting a lot of joy out of it, a lot of pleasure out of giving it to him, twisting the knife, and knowing that she had the opportunity to basically kick him off the show at the end. I didn't like this at all. Not to say that I'm a fan of David. I don't know that he belonged on this show with these women, but she took a little too much pleasure in kicking him off. I don't like her. I'm just gonna say I don't like her. Moving on. I had my predictions when the show first started, and I was right about a couple of things. I was wrong about a couple of things. And my view on a few of these people has changed. My new favorite couples are Joy and Jay. And it's cute because their names are the same except for one vowel. They have a connection. They both seem level-headed. They both seem mature. Rashid and Adriana, you'll remember this is the couple that met before the show. She ghosted him and they've reconnected. I like them together. Rashid seems to really be into her. Adriana likes him, good energy, they look good together. And then Naya and Chris, the paddle boat couple, they look like they might make it. They seem to be on the same page about a lot of things. They've kind of separated themselves from the pack, which always is a good thing because it gives them an opportunity to know each other on another level and not get pulled into any of the drama or the entanglements of the entire situation. As it stands now, and again, I may change my mind next week because, you know, these folks are always showing us different sides of them. But those are my three favorite couples right now. I'm rooting for them. Let's see what happens. It appears that next week, the claws are going to come out. Now we know the sleeping arrangements. Some folks might be sleeping with each other or sneaking into each other's rooms at night. Reminds me of the good old college dorm days. It's going to be interesting. And we will start to see what happens when a person has garnered the interest of more than one woman or more than one man, and how they are going to interact. The competition of it all is going to start stirring up. The character development is going to continue. So let me know what you thought. This was a good episode. Things are starting to pick up. It's going to be a good season. That prediction I will stay with. I'm curious to know what you think. What were your thoughts about this episode? What do you predict will happen next week? Let's talk about it. Drop down in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe and to like. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.